What's up, guys? Average Kiwi Guy here. How y'all doing? So we got Flashback tonight. Premiere of the season 4. It's up to now. Jesus, getting up there. And I gotta say, it was a big reset episode. A big reset episode. They went to a concerted effort to say, guys, we heard you. We know you don't want the dark, mopey, serious stories anymore. The speedster villains anymore, because we've had just constant one. Every single time it's been a speedster villain. We want something different, and a more happy-go-lucky Barry to go back, go back to what he was in season 1. Where he was happy to be the Flash, like he was happy with the way everything was going and stuff like that. Like that's what everyone kind of wanted. That's what everyone wanted, was them to go back to that. That's all we wanted. And this episode, they just hit that reset button. They hit that reset button. We're going to use the fact that Flash has been away for 6 months to reset it all, go back to some season 1, and then went back to locations that they done stuff with season 1, like the whole testing thing with the runway and all that. And we're going to go back and go with a bit of a lighter, more happy, optimistic Barry, and probably a more interesting villain and story, and something different. And we definitely got that. And it was a little, I don't know, it was a little too quick how they all just everything just reset and everything was done. So essentially, for the first part of this episode is how they're dealing with Barry being gone, right? And I thought maybe they would go for an episode without Barry being there, but it was really like half an episode. And basically what you saw was Cisco and Wally they're not getting it done, right? They get there, but I think what they say, 1 in every 3 metahumans they were fighting was getting away. So that's struggling a little bit here. They're just not as good as Barry is. Barry just always gets his man. I'm glad, because I felt like last season they were trying to put these other characters above Barry. They were trying to make Wally a big thing. They were trying to make, just other characters seem more important or better at what they were doing than what Barry was. But Barry's the main character. The Flash is the main character. He's the main superhero here, not Kid Flash, not Vibe, not any of them. And it has to be Barry. And this episode, they made that fact known. Look, no one's as good as the Flash. No one's as good as him. And even the villain in this episode, yo, I don't want to deal with you lot. You guys are nothing. I want the Flash. I want Barry. And we'll get to kind of why they were doing that. They did a concerted effort to make sure that they put him back to the top again. So I was happy about that. Then they even did a reset with Caitlyn, really. Kind of a half one, because later on in the episode you see, kind of what's going on. But, she's, in this sort of dive bar, and she's, just a bartender now, but she's back to normal. She's Caitlyn. She's not this half Caitlyn that they were, trying to sell in the season finale of last season. She's just no, I'm Caitlyn now. I'm good. I'm back to who I was, And, Cisco goes and asks for her to come and help him. And, everything they just get back the old team back together. It really is. They get the old team back together. And, I thought through this entire episode that she kind of she'd made a deal with the devil again to try and get these powers away. She's made a deal with someone that she probably shouldn't have, that's keeping her powers contained or something. But it just turns out that I think she's just got more control over it now. She seems Frost comes out. You see, at the end of the episode when this guy grabs her when she's having an argument, because I think she wants out of this bar, or she wants out of this sort of gang that she has to be in, or I don't know what they haven't really gone into that. But basically the guy grabs her, and she instantly turns to Killer Frost and starts going. Frost sort of takes over for a bit. But then Caitlyn comes back and forces her back into her place. So maybe she's got more control over it. So I was happy that she just didn't repeat the same mistake again, and tried to make a deal with someone that she probably shouldn't have. The whole biker chick dive bar thing with her, I was like, okay, we get it. She's trying to do something different here. That's like, all right. So yeah, they even did a reset with her, and she's back to being Caitlyn and all the rest of it. And then, they did, for the first part of the episode, they really focused in on Iris. Iris sort of stepping up and being the sort of, leader of this group now. Trying to keep Wally focused, keeping, getting, Cisco involved more, and I'm glad about that. I'm glad Cisco's really sort of stepping up and becoming more of a hero and, actually getting out there and fighting. Really, really good. He's wasted, sitting back and just playing the IT guy. Just let him go out there and help. And, she's really trying to lead this team and get them going, and like your father and the police are all rallying around this. But the team's just not that strong. It's not as strong as what it is with Barry. And, she's really pushing it because she's doing the normal thing, right? She's lost the man that she loved and she was meant to marry. And she's sort of trying to surround herself with work. She's trying to lose herself in work and not think about it. And, and at her place, like, she's not even sleeping in her own bed because she doesn't want to sleep there because of, it reminds her of Barry. So she's sleeping on the couch. She's trying to move on, but it's not working. So she's trying to surround herself with stuff to do so she doesn't have to think about it. And, when Cisco comes up with the idea, when the Samuroid shows up, and horrible name, when that shows up, and they lose massively in the first encounter with it, because he just like drops the sword into the ground and just blasts everything away. And they sort of have to try and come up with an idea of like how to fight this thing. Cisco magically comes up and says, oh yeah, I've been working on a plan since like night one, since Barry had left, to get him back. I just need a few things to help. And I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want this. You shouldn't, because what if something goes wrong? What if Barry's like this? What if Barry's that? What if the Speed Force comes out and kills everyone? Stuff like that. And like, she's really against that. And mainly because she's afraid. She's afraid that, if they try and get Barry back, that he may actually be dead. Like, he might not exist anymore. Like, at least she sort of knows that he's, at this point, it's like, kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right? Like, you don't know if the cat's alive or dead. And at least, there's a chance that he's alive and, he's there. But if you try and find out, he could be dead. So, when Cisco tries to get him out and they do this whole thing and, Caitlyn comes in and helps, and they use like this the quark sphere, which was, interesting. I had to look that up. I had heard that before, but it's like a physics thing. And, they try to do it and sort of nothing happens. And I honestly thought Iris had like sabotaged it, like turned the power off or something. But no, it just sort of was a delayed reaction. And, she's pissed off that he did it and all that. But it turns out that Barry had shown back up and he was like halfway, so like 300 miles away or something like that. And, sort of super speeding around naked. And yeah, and that's sort of when Barry comes back into the fold. And, he's messed up. He's messed up. His mind's all confused. Like, he's been in the Speed Force for 6 months, right? Where time's not the same. Time's not the same there. It moves at different paces. And it could do some crazy stuff to your head. And they sort of get to they start talking to him and stuff. And he's talking like, and, things that he said in the past, like different lines that he said and, different things like that. And, he's talking about stars and like pain. He's rhyming things together. And he's writing in a weird language and stuff. And they sort of have to try and figure out, like, what is he? Like, is he just, he's gone crazy, being, Caitlyn sort of said, like, because time acts differently there, maybe he feels like he's been by himself for like 10,000 years. So this would, like, you go crazy. You would literally go crazy. It would break your mind being by yourself for that long. But then there's also a chance that maybe he's trying to talk to them in another language, like he's just, seeing things differently. And they do this thing where they try to figure out, like, what the symbols are and all that. And, Cisco uses, like, this algorithm and all the rest, sciencey stuff to figure it all out. And he, has this like eureka moment and all the rest of it to try, sort of figure out this language, and he deciphers it, and it basically turns out that all he's saying is like, "Man, this house is bitchin'." Like that's what all he's saying. Like, this house is bitchin'. Like that's all apparently that's all they keep saying. He's just talking in gibberish, and yeah, it kind of takes the air out of everyone. They're like, oh no, he's not Barry anymore. We're not gonna have Barry back. And Cisco's made this new suit, and no one's gonna get to use it. And the Samuroid's coming back, so it's, I don't know. They all kind of get down, a little bit down on that. But of course, this is where the reset sort of comes in, right, with Barry. So Joe goes in and kind of cleans up Barry and, gives him a bit of a shave because he's got, he had a bit of a beard and all the rest of it. And I don't know, I kind of liked it, a bit of a rugged Barry, it wasn't too bad. But he's just not, he's just not getting better. And, Joe and Iris sort of have this talk, and they sort of, he's discussing about having faith, and, he's going back to church and stuff just to try and deal with all these things. And I think that kind of gives Iris this idea, right? That, the samurai comes back, and Wally's already tried to face him. He tried to face him down as the Flash. Like, he got in Barry's suit and all that, but he got owned. Got completely owned. And I'm kind of glad there because they've toned Wally down. They've made his power level come back down to, I think, where he should be. He's not this prodigal son of speedsters and stuff like that anymore. So I'm happy about that. And, she basically figures that if I need to shock Barry back into being Barry. And she basically risks her life doing it. She steps in front of the Samuroid, says, "You take me, the Flash will come and find you." That's what basically happens. And of course, Joe runs back to Barry. He starts screaming at Barry like, "Iris is in trouble. Iris is gonna die." And boom, Barry's back. Snaps out of it, goes full on Flash mode, gets the new suit, which looks awesome, by the way. I love the new suit, and we'll get into that. And becomes the Flash again. And he has this kind of interesting, it was kind of it's more of a chase scene, and then he just kind of owns the samurai, and it was nothing really to him. But it shows that he's had a significant power boost. Like, he sort of sat in the Speed Force and become stronger for it, and he sort of absorbed all this Speed Force energy, which is good, because Barry needed this. Barry needed a power boost. He needed to break away from Wally and break away from these other speedsters that have been around, so that he can become the Flash that we all know that he will become. And be able to be one of the big time superheroes of the world. He needed that power boost. He needed it. So I'm glad that they did that. And sort of after everything, he's back to normal. He's just happy-go-lucky, sort of back to what he was in season 1. He's not worrying about his past anymore. It's sort of like all flowed away from him, and he's like back to normal instantly. It felt a little rushed. It felt very rushed. It felt like we're not going to waste time trying to deal with the consequences of last season, because we know that it didn't go down all too well. Last season was okay. It was still good. It had its shock moments and all the rest of it, but it just tried to be something that Flash is not, which is dark and dreary and, kind of a twisted soul and all that. Barry Allen is not a twisted soul. Now, he's had some serious shit happen to him, like obviously with his mother dying and all that, and his father being in prison. But he's not Batman. He's not Batman. He's not Oliver Queen. He's not, Bruce Wayne. He's not those guys that are those dark, serious, twisted soul types. He's not that way. That was always the appeal with the Flash, that he's, because of all the stuff that's happened to him, he's still optimistic. He's still happy. He's still glad to be a superhero, and he's excited that he has powers, and that kind of gives people hope. He's the light in the room. That was always what Flash was about. So they're going back to that, I think. And they did it very, very quickly. Very quickly. So I'm willing to give it a pass, because hopefully that will set up for this season going back to its roots a little more. Going back to what Flash started out as, this sort of, this guy loving being a superhero and all that. Going back to that, and I hope I I'll give this one a pass for that. For that. And then sort of comes the villain of this season, which is the Thinker. And by the way, I loved like the big floating chair and the whole look of him and all that, because it's very supervillain, right? It's very supervillain. It's very like comic book supervillain, and I dig that. I dig that. Like, it's kind of like where Gotham's going. It's going to where all these supervillains are becoming like who they should be. Now we're starting to see the supervillains in the Flash and all that coming to what they should be. And I'm glad that he's not up against another goddamn speedster villain. Like, if you think about the first 3 seasons, every single season, the villain he's had to go up against is a speedster. Every single one of them. Reverse Flash, which is understandable because he's one of the biggest Flash villains around. Then he had Zoom. And then he had freaking his, Savitar, which turned out to be his other self. So, I'm glad that they've gone away from that now. We've had enough speedsters. We've had enough guys, where he's had to use his speed and all the rest of it. Now, bring in a different villain. And they've done that. They brought in Thinker, and I don't know if he's in the future or not. This may be like a thing where they'll, it's a future, this guy from the future sort of thing, so they'll bring time travel back into it, which is okay. I don't mind that. But, the Thinker, he sort of used the samurai to bring Flash back out of hiding. And, him and his assistant sort of had this view screen that had, Flash returns and all that. So, I'm wondering if this is in the future. And, Thinker's sort of, seeing this and seeing that the Flash was gone, and he wanted to bring the Flash back. Sort of like a worthy rival. That's what all these, villains love to have, is this worthy rival to go up against. This is what I think this is what he's trying to do. So, I'm glad that they've gone that way. I'm glad that, the Thinker and all that, they're moving in a good direction. And I think the season's moving in a good direction. Now, do I think that there's going to be some after effects of this, breaking Barry out of the, Speed Force prison? Is Barry the same? Honestly, I don't think so. I don't. I think they're just going to leave all that behind. I think they're just going to go, nope. No, maybe they'll have an episode 2 where maybe something's tweaked a little bit. Maybe the Speed Force is kind of angry with Barry or, something like that. But I honestly don't think it will. Because seeing the promos with the next one, his suit's going haywire and, the raft and all the rest of it. And they're having fun. They're going back to, these sort of funny episodes. I think they're just going to move on. I think they're just like, yeah, we're going to bring Barry back. We're going to we're going to reset him back to way that we think that everyone wants him to be. We're going to give him a damn good villain to go up against, who's not a speedster, and just go nuts with it. I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that, because Flash lost itself for 2 seasons. It lost itself. It lost itself in the dark, and now it's coming back to what it should be. So, I'm happy about that. I really am. I'm happy about that. And I'm also happy about that he got a new suit. My God, I'm glad that he got that suit. We'd seen it in last season when they did the future stuff with future Barry, like emo Barry and all that. That suit looked really good because it's that light shade of red. Like, that's the thing. Like, even the suit's going lighter. Like, they're bringing back that, the brightness to the season. So the suit's lighter. It has the gold in it. It's more comic book Flash. And I love that. I love that. Like, I was always happy that, the suit was going to evolve, through the seasons with the Flash, and as it should, like, because every superhero goes through that. Like, as they go along further in their story arcs, their suits change, they get better, they get more advanced, and so will this one. So, good on them. I'm happy about that, and it looks like it's got a whole lot of gadgets in it. So, yeah. On a bit of a side note, they kind of spoiled something for Arrow. And that is coming up in the next couple of days. When he said that he consulted with, Harry and all that, all these scientists that, will get for getting Barry out, he also mentions Felicity. So, they left Arrow on a bit of a cliffhanger with, is everyone dead? And obviously not everyone's dead. I mean, for God's sake, that was never going to happen. But they kind of did spoil a little bit, saying that Felicity was back in contact with Cisco. So again, I don't think Arrow's going to be too long without all their cast coming back. They're not going to leave Ollie by himself for too long. Kind of like what they did with these guys with Flash. So overall, I mean, I'm happy with the way the episode went. I'm happy with the way it went because Flash needed a reset. It needed a reset. They needed to, tweak a few things here and there to actually bring back Flash to what he should be. And I think they've done a good job here. Well, like I said, it was rushed and it was a little bit haphazard and it was a little bit of, we're not going to talk about how the speed bazookas, this thing magically works and all the rest of it and fixes this paradox that no one could ever, have fixed in this Speed Force prison, all that. Forgetting all that. For the reason why they did this episode, which is to reset Barry back to the way he should be, I'm happy about that. I think because it will set up this season to be better than what the other two have been. So, I'm happy about that. I think season 4 is, really looking at coming back to its roots and being a bit lighter and realizing what Flash is and just going with that. Not trying to force it into something that's more dramatic than it needs to be. So, yeah. Alright, guys, that's it for us. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace. Bye.